Yeah, my name's Dennis Collins. I was born in a small, well, it's actually now a suburb of Auckland, but it was a small town called Howick, just in New Zealand. So, yeah. I actually came to Australia, well, I came to Geelong in a roundabout way, but I came to Australia on May the 8th, 1985. Oddly enough, I can remember the exact date, which is pretty strange. Um, and I was actually living in Townsville up in Queensland. Yeah, and we came over here just due to some family reasons, actually. I went straight into work. I was working at a nursery down on Coppards Road for about a year, and then I went to TAFE. I was doing a graphic design course. Yeah, I could. They just brought in. I'm Maori, so they just brought in language into the schools pretty much when I left, so I missed out on that whole round of learning my own language. And I suppose that comes true for a lot of people from my generation and older. My mum speaks, but she never taught any of us. From my mum's point of view, wasn't something that we needed to learn because, from her point of view, we wouldn't really get anywhere with it. So, which was pretty sad. It is. For me, it was. I couldn't make a connection to what I was culturally. Without knowing my language. It's sort of something that I'm sort of struggling with now, trying to find a place where I can learn it. I get snippets, but sort of joining it all together doesn't quite work. So yeah, it is important. It helps with your own identity. Here in Geelong we have a Maori community group called Te Ara Hina. The whole structure of the group is about fostering our next generation so they can get a sense of who they are, where they belong, and to give them a basic understanding so that they can go off and search for themselves. Because I suppose the whole Maori thing back home is we all come from different tribes and things are slightly different for each tribe. So we're sort of trying to cover the basics so then they can get excited. And there's one sort of main cultural event, I suppose, that sort of comes up with Maori culture. It's Matariki Festival. That's our New Year's celebration. It's, I suppose, only in the last 5 years they've started doing it back home in New Zealand. So we've wanted to encourage that here as well. Originally it was a harvest festival, so it was the time when crops were harvested and new ones were planted. It's all about family getting together, sharing the food that's come through, and just being together basically. It happens in usually the last couple of weeks of June. And it coincides with when you see the Pleiades star constellation, because Matariki actually in Māori it means the Pleiades star constellation. So when it's sort of in the sky in the mornings, it's usually about when they start celebrating it. I actually don't. The only thing I do remember is some things with Mum when she's speaking her language and stuff. Because I was only with Mum when I was very young, and after that I sort of went off to live with my grandparents. So I can just remember snippets of bits and pieces, and there's the odd song here and there that I sort of, when I hear it, I go, well, I've heard that before. So I can't quite pinpoint it. Yeah, a couple of years ago I went back to actually visit Mum. I hadn't seen her since I was about 5, so the structure of the family. And she took me down to our one of the tribes that we belong to in the area of the land that the family sort of occupies. And while we were there, there's this river that goes up towards the ocean. It's in a place called Te Kaha, which is, if anyone's familiar, it's down there, a place called Whakatane. And there's this river called the Keru River. And with that river, that was actually where Mum was born. So the hospital was a river back in the day, which was quite interesting. But within the family, there's this whole series of different events which have culminated around this river. One of our family members was almost drowned in that and was saved by one of Mum's brothers. And also before Mum was born, one of her brothers was actually died in that same river. So it's sort of a place of life and death for the actual family. So it was quite strange actually seeing that little space. So yeah, it was nice to see that. And also we got to see the marae, which was the marae is sort of like each tribe and sub-tribe has their own marae space. It's kind of like a community centre. So a lot of local events and things can also happen in these places. Everything from funerals, weddings, church meetings, the whole gamut of different things happen there. So I got to see that as well. A lot of it was those stories, but also photographs of those areas. So yeah, so there's photographs of the marae that the family used to spend a lot of time with. Also that river space where Mum was born and her brother passed away. I've got photographs of the Udipa, which is the family cemetery, and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, that's something I'd like to share. So through coming to Geelong, that's where I've actually met the people that have given me the access to finding my family, finding my culture. So I don't think I would have found that if I was in Melbourne, and I wouldn't have actually found that if I was in New Zealand, oddly enough. Yeah. Big thing for me was reconnecting with my family. That's something it's something that never actually happened. So it wasn't until actually coming to Australia that I actually reconnected with my family back home, including my culture. So family was very important. Also language, because, I think that sort of also helps you identify with who and what you are.